Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he hasn't smoked Lucky Strike since he was 15. Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet.
I don't know what to say to that.
And he's quite the lethal protector, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I prefer eating chocolate to brains.
What about Chocolate Brains? Wasn't that a song that YouTube guy did? Chocolate Brains?
Close. Didn't he follow us on Twitter?
Oh, well, he mentioned us at some point, I think. There was some weird thing where Tazon Day just kind of threw us a like or a retweet or something, and like we could use more of those Tazon Day or whomever. Sylvester Stallone, I know you're on the tweet.
Just Tazon Day. All you other people, forget about you.
Don't be doing none of that. Well, this week we rolled back into the theaters, as it appears a lot of people did, to check out Venom, the newest Marvel, not Marvel movie, kind of, maybe, sort of. We'll get into a little bit of that. Before we do, though, we do want to say a big thank you to all of those who support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. It is all of the best stuff, and you keep this show floating around. We really appreciate that. Appreciate all of you fine people. I should have had all the names since it's the top of the month, but I forgot, and here we are. But I'll do it next week. So
you'll splice it in later, I'm sure.
No, that's not going to happen. You know that. I know that. I'll say it next week when I write it down. So
okay then.
But but if you would like your name in that group with all of those other people, see how that works. Head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Pre-show, post-show, dig zone, all that kind of good stuff. I won't stay on this too long because apparently Emily on Facebook does not like how I continue to go on for. We're in 2 minutes into the show right now, and apparently that's far
Is
too
it
long.
Emily or Elizabeth?
Somebody Elizabeth. That's what it was. You're right. But so I can't talk about that too long because some people apparently get upset. But,
oh my God! Somebody had a problem with something that you did on the internet. Oh my God!
Yeah, it's weird.
Oh no, we should listen to everyone's advice.
No, I do. Well, I don't. So in that case, what's her name again? That's how much it means.
No. We've got a Dandu already. We don't need to go back. We've grown beyond that stage, and we appreciate the feedback. We just can't always comply.
That's true. And but we try to comply for the best for the people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP because those people vote every single month and they tell us what they want to watch, and we do it. Sometimes to our chagrin, but we do it nevertheless. So
yeah, the only guy that we can absolutely rail against is that one D-bag who said that everything I do is worthless on the show. That guy can chug it.
Yeah. I've apologized, Sean. When are you going to let it go?
We're going to have another off-mic argument, all three of us.
This is why we no longer meet once a year anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We had a tradition for a little bit, and then we realized it's better over the internet. So we can't choke each other in person. A lot of sneering looks and stuff during the middle of everything. You don't need any of that. And you're just like, I don't want that guy using my bathroom. Fair enough. Like I said, this week we checked out Carnage, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Let's say it correctly. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the trailer.
Lady, we should be out there snacking on bad guys. I am a predator. I need to be free.
You have got to get control of your aggression. We will get hauled off into Area 51. You live in my body. You live by my rules.
I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please let me fix it so I can play it again. You are a loser.
Eddie Brock, I want to give you my story. People love serial killers.
Cletus, why me?
What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. I have tasted blood before, and that is not it. All I ever wanted in this world is carnage. not a crazy man. Are you a vengeful one?
Oh, shit!
Whoa, where you going?
That is a red one!
You need to come out right now. I will let you eat everybody!
Promise!
I promise!
Oh, yeah!
Betty, you feel like home to me. Like family.
Oh, wow.
You could just say, I'm happy for you.
That was going to be us!
I am happy for you.
No!
God, I'm so sorry.
Not sorry!
Stu needs some serious couples counseling.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. You know what time it is.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for us this week?
Maximum Carnage is a 14-issue crossover event from 1993. 4 writers are credited with this story arc, including Carnage co-creator David Michelini. Now, in this story, Cletus Cassidy is locked up in Ravencroft with the Carnage symbiote believed to have been destroyed. But in a classic comic book turn of events, Cassidy's blood has been mutated, and this allows him to create a new symbiote. Once again calling himself Carnage, Cletus escapes from Ravencroft and takes along fellow inmate Shriek. They go on a killing spree across New York City, and the unthinkable happens. Spider-Man and Venom actually team up to stop Carnage. A conflict between the heroes quickly arises because Venom is willing to stop Carnage by any means necessary, but Spidey refuses to be all murderous and everything. Now, eventually, Spider-Man gets fed up with Venom and leaves the black-clad symbiote to fend for himself against his murderous offspring. In a ploy that's kind of corny by any standard and definitely out of place in the extreme 90s, Spider-Man uses a device created by the Rand Corporation that emits love onto the villain. This confuses Carnage and allows Venom to beat him into a bloody pulp and leave him zapped by an electric generator, which allows him to be returned to Ravencroft. This Maximum Carnage event is what influenced Let There Be Carnage, and the most interesting part about the comic book story, to me at least, is that Spider-Man isn't the only character to team up with Venom in this endeavor. He's also joined by, wow, my autocorrect says Morris the Living Vampire, but I'm pretty sure it's Morbius. And knowing Sony's perhaps overly ambitious plans for the Spider-adjacent cinematic universe, I can't help but wonder if the third Venom movie will be a BVS-style Venom versus Morbius in which they eventually team up to take on a version of Carnage from another part of the multiverse or something. I can kind of see it. How about you guys? And Adam, give us a list.
I can't believe I forgot that they were doing a Morbius movie.
I have several dates circled on my calendar so far.
Totally slipped my mind here. Well, if that comic connection wasn't enough for you, let me sell you on this sequel because this sucker has everything. This is pretty much the ultimate 13-year-old boy film. It's the second movie, so your hero has to lose his powers. We got Screamo Lady, Convenience Store Lady, no more Curly Cassidy wig, but still a bad wig. And speaking of bad hair, we got Tommy from Snatch, but with facial hair that fluctuates. That's fun. Unorthodox drawing, Sonny and Cher, product placement from Ducati, bad symbiote cooking, cool backstory animation, simultaneously great and questionable CGI, a warden that tastes like ham, candy wrappers that were surely emptied by grips, Woody being Woody, Venom Halloween rave speech, some BA stunt driving, USB fingers, Shrek, a girl who loves you even though that you're a squid, using a car as a shield, great lines like, look at all these weirdos, they're everywhere, puckered old sphincter, no one likes you, Dan, and bling-a-ling, as well as let's go save that a-hole. Of course, the Let There Be Carnage, which you have to clap whenever you hear the title of the movie in the movie. You should know that. There's a Game of Thrones reference leading to an eye roll. We got finger painting, bell dropping, teeth smashing, eye gouging, tongue licking, head chomping, slap fighting, helicopter throwing, a chain noose, gargoyles, another Eminem song. That mid-credits, though. Your DP is Robert Richardson for some weird reason. I don't know. And it's all directed by Gollum with the loudest flick I've seen in a long time. This movie has everything.
This movie is as loud as Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which previously to my ear was the loudest movie ever made. So if you think about,
there's a lot of screaming going on in that film.
There is so much screaming that happens in that movie. It's impressive.
This one, so I work at a movie theater, and when we closed down, I was like, okay, it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm going to watch this movie because I didn't want to have to go out today and watch it. So I was like, let me finish up my shift and then watch it. And I put it up to, the reference level, and even I was going, this probably needs to be a little quieter because my word, it is assaulting. And I like big, loud, dumb movies. This is a big, loud, dumb movie. But it as far as audibly, it never stops assaulting you. It's like maybe 3 minutes of semi-quiet in this movie, but it is just it's shaking the rafters the entire time.
Yeah. I totally didn't catch on to all that loudness.
It's an assault. That's how loud it is.
Yeah, I was quite shocked. I was like, man, oh man, there was a point where I had a couple minutes in, I was like, did I lock the front door? So I had to go out to go check and see if I locked the front door of the theater, and I did not. And,
no.
It was okay. No, it was you would have had to known to guess to get into that particular door. It's one of those kind of secret dealies, you know what I'm saying? But there's a way to get in. So I locked that, but it was so loud that I could hear it from the theater, so I didn't miss any dialogue or anything. I could hear it all the way out to the front of the theater. So.
Oh man, I'm our theater has a public facing outer wall. So I think I'm going to go and just stand there during a Venom screening and see if I can hear it. I totally missed out on just how loud it was.
It's like all those people in the Honeywell Hotel over by Bank of America Stadium. They just got a free Stones concert Thursday night. I look out and I'm just like, all of these people are just watching this concert from this hotel. Unreal.
Nice.
But so I heard a lot of interesting things from other people going into this. I heard a lot of people say it's the biggest one was
let's stop right here.
Okay.
Because if you're new to this podcast, and you might be for this movie,
that's true.
There's going to be spoilers all throughout from this point forward.
Thank you.
If only there was some sort of sound drop, like somebody's voice through through some sort of filter where it'd be warbling like that.
Spoilers.
There you go. Perfect.
Just imagine that in your mind's eye, if you will. If all I got is this, the only sound thing I have up is this. I still haven't removed that from our Sonic episode that I never really
It's
used.
Still good. We should keep it forever.
That's our spoiler warning from now on.
There is something super delightful about Sega. See, that just makes me happy.
It does. It brings back fond memories. But so speaking of fond memories, this first Venom, I'm trying to remember what we all thought of it. I feel like we all thought it was surprisingly decent for what it was.
We thought it was surprisingly enjoyable, but it was an absolute mess. But it was a so bad it's good moment.
It was a dumb movie that was fun to watch, is how basically we put it together. We were also all floored that it wasn't a train wreck of a movie.
Because all rights point to this being absolutely awful. I mean, you have a Venom movie with nary a Spider-Man to be seen, and it was how are you going to pull this off? They did it well enough for not having any sort of Spider-Man in there. And you're right, it was just so bug nuts crazy that you were just okay, I mean, I kind of like what they're doing here just because it's as nuts as it is. And I felt like this movie falls very much in that same vein of if you like the first movie, I feel like you'll like this one because not necessarily a bad way, but it is more of the same.
Well, what I take away from the second movie, which I didn't think I didn't really see in the first movie, but I also wasn't looking for it, is just how much Tom Hardy enjoys playing Venom.
Yes,
it is so very, very clear watching this movie, the second one specifically, that he is just having a ball, unlike your later day X-Men Jennifer Lawrence, thank you.
Who is clearly just I signed a contract and they're paying me money, so I guess I'll just be here.
I am contractually obligated to be here.
I haven't, for some reason, I've never been compelled to like revisit the original Venom. So I haven't inspected it through a more critical lens, but watching this and seeing Tom Hardy, I'm starting to think that like he might have been the only guy in the first movie that kind of knew what was going to make it work, because I thought it was all just like this mad accident, but then seeing him really lean into it here and not being reined in at all, I think he totally knew he was doing something ridiculous and was having fun with it. But I don't know that the rest of the world knew that's what was coming.
Well, let me drop a little knowledge on you, because I happened to find this little stat through the IMDb, and I wasn't even looking for one. But apparently Tom Hardy received his first story credit for this film, making him the fifth person to receive the writing credit after Christopher Reeve in Superman 4, Quest for Peace, Paul Rudd in Ant-Man, Edward Norton in The Incredible Hulk, and Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool 2. So I kind of like how these guys are going, you know what, we've got a vested interest in this character, and we'd like to, you know, make sure that it's represented the way we would like it to be.
I mean, that caught my attention on the screen. I saw the credits. I saw a story by Tom Hardy and somebody else, and I thought, wow, Tom Hardy's really doubling down on this. No wonder he's all fired up for a third one.
Yeah, I mean, and he really does enjoy it. You know, you can tell just through his performance. And I think that half of it, I kind of realized about halfway through the movie, like 50% of this movie is just Tom Hardy talking to himself.
Yeah, it's his dream role, I guess. Now, do you guys remember like when Locke came out and like Tom Hardy, I thought was going to be one of those critical darling kind of actors?
I thought so. Now the one that it did for me was I forget what year it was, but I went to the Charlotte Film Festival and they were showing Bronson.
Oh yeah,
yeah, another one.
That was
right
that was my first time seeing Tom Hardy, and it was just like, I don't know who this guy is, but he is a revelation. He was so good and just amazing, and I was like, whatever this guy does, I'm going to follow it from here on out. And his stars just kept rising and rising. So,
and you know, when he was Bane, I thought, well, it's Nolan, so people will do Nolan movies and they don't count it as a comic book movie. But here, he's loving it, man. Yeah. Back to Locke, did either of you guys ever see Locke?
I don't know this movie.
I feel like I saw it. Was that where he's in the car all the time?
It's just Tom Hardy. For the whole movie, it is literally him talking on the phone in his car because they have this gigantic concrete pour. And for him to make a movie that sounds like the most boring thing ever, actually riveting, like that was a performance that I thought was like a once in a generation type thing. So anyway, Sean, he has experience at spending a whole movie talking to himself.
Well, that said, Bruce, there's another one that kind of came out a little bit before that. Speaking of Ryan Reynolds, a Ryan Reynolds movie called Buried.
Who was speaking of Ryan Reynolds? But yes, I'm familiar with that.
You did. You brought his name up.
Did I?
A couple of minutes ago.
Oh, I didn't think I did.
Or somebody, whatever. Anyways, Ryan Reynolds, he did that. He did that in Buried, which instead of just a car, at least with a car,
he's
you've got
in a coffin.
Yeah, he's in a coffin. At least with a car, there's stuff going on outside. The other thing is like, well, you're in a box for
Pretty
2
cool,
hours.
though.
That's a box, and it's great. But I was excited to see what Tom Hardy was going to do with this, and I can't remember back to the first one. Does Venom feel like he's more kind of playful and insane this time?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. I saw at least one reviewer refer to it as a one-man Abbott and Costello routine.
Yeah, and I liked, and you heard a little bit of it there in the trailer. I thought there were silly little stupid moments between the two of them where it was just like where he punches him in the nose and says, "I'm going to heal it so I can punch it again." It's like that was just, there's little stupid stuff like this throughout there with the back and forth between the two of them that is so much fun, and you're just like, it's so dumb, it's so over the top, but boy, it's great.
Not since Steve Martin's All of Me have I enjoyed that kind of humor so much.
You know, there are a lot of things to recommend this movie. You know, I think that they do the same thing. They walk the same tightrope that Ant-Man does, where the ex and the boyfriend aren't the enemy.
Yeah.
You know, they're helpful. Both of them are. And you know, basically Eddie Brock is the prick between all three of them, which I love that that's still the case even right now as I'm saying these words.
Now
that part's great.
Yeah.
And they don't take the easy way out, which is another thing that I like about this movie, is that the like A to B to C they're pretty good with. What about you? Because I know that you're about to speak here. Positive things, because I'm about to dump all over this movie, basically.
Oh man, I've got a long list of dumps too. But it's kind of interesting to see that I think there's 3 Oscar nominees in this movie.
I think so. That sounds
and
right.
It's Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. I love that idea. I like it that we're getting to Hollywood where people are willing to have a little fun and do some dumb movies.
Well, Woody Harrelson learned a long time ago, I'm just going to take their money and run.
Yes. And, interestingly, we'll save any negativity. Yeah, that might be it till we get to the next.
And we're done. No, I thought, okay, one of the things that I was kind of curious about, and I didn't realize it. I don't think I watched a single trailer for this movie leading up to it. So I had really I think I'd seen a couple pictures, obviously a poster or two here or there, but I didn't think Carnage would look as good as it did. I thought for that character, and a character that's hard to kind of draw and really figure out exactly how you would do that in real life, they did a pretty good job. I thought it was neat looking.
Now, one thing I'd say, because I did see trailers before movies a couple of times for this, I think in the trailers they made Carnage look like a brighter shade of red than he does in the film.
Yes.
Like they turned up the saturation.
They definitely did, because it's so much more skin tony, gross looking what he is in this movie than what those trailers show you.
It's like the old thing, you turn up the the color saturation on your thumbnail 20% to get people to click on it. I think they did that with the trailer, because I kind of like the Carnage, slightly more comic book Carnage in the trailer, a little bit better here. But I agree with you, though. I like the movement and the fact that they convinced Woody Harrelson to do the voice for Carnage, just like Hardy does the voice.
Oh, they did? I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was very hesitant to do it, and I think Hardy talked him into it.
That's like, great. Listen, we're going to throw enough filters on your voice that no one's going to know what any of this is, so don't worry. But
that means I have to do more work. Never mind.
I do like it that they showed us the 1996 version of Woody Harrelson, when we all know we were alive in 1996, and we knew that Woody Harrelson looked about the same as he does now, and he doesn't look particularly young now. It's like, not because he doesn't age, it's because he got old quick.
Well, the thing is too, though, is that maybe it just wasn't in the budget, but you look at the budget of this, and I'm sure it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. Tons of CGI, and you've got a guy who's pretty well versed in special effects and stuff behind the camera and everything. I'm curious as to why they just didn't do a proper de-aging. We've done some really great de-aging stuff these days.
Oh my God, man. There are so many corners cut on this movie. If that's where we want to start, we can totally start there.
It's the same reason they didn't bother to de-age Vin Diesel, because in his mind, he's way more handsome than he really is. So they just got a handsome actor to play a young Vin Diesel in the last Fast and Furious.
He's wearing a name tag that just says young Vin.
And you can tell Vin is a producer, because the guy that played young John Cena was like 5'3" and squirrely looking. It's like, yeah, that's about what Cena looks like in my mind, is what Vin was in.
I got to go back. I still never watched that one. I can't believe it.
I can understand they didn't de-age him, but Woody Harrelson's what, 52, 53, maybe even older than that. So in 1996, he was still like 40 something. So, I mean, you don't need the 17-year-old.
Just look at the poster of Natural Born Killers. There you go.
Yeah. And that's like 93 or 4, isn't it? Yeah. 94, maybe? Yeah.
94.
So yes, just shave his head and put some sunglasses on him, and you got a young Woody Harrelson.
The dub was okay. When we saw that, at least it didn't look like, it looked like he matched the lips pretty well. I know that's a low bar, but
I will say though that with a movie like this, it doesn't really not that big a deal if it doesn't all match up.
No,
yeah,
I will say
it's like, and I mean the mouth is like a talking alligator. So as long as there's any movement at all, it's not like we're studying the lips for proper movement. It's all teeth.
What did you guys think of Andy Serkis's direction here overall? I mean, a guy that we don't always necessarily associate with directing, despite him having directed a few things at this point.
I will tell you that whoever is the drone operator on this show should definitely get rewarded a B unit cameraman award.
Yeah,
because there is so much drone camera in this movie. It's sort of ridiculous just how much there is.
It felt to me, I felt like I could see the seams. I think I could. It felt to me like something from someone who has not directed a lot.
I mean, because there were a couple of shots that I thought, like, just transitional type things that I thought were really good. There's one that kind of starts out on the street and then ends up in Eddie Brock's house and everything, and it's done quite well. I was surprised.
Okay, so and what I'm seeing, not so much like the camera movements and that stuff is really important. And yeah, I agree that looks as good as the previous one. I guess I just mean the way that it's put together. That the fact that it's 90 minutes probably contributes to that a little bit. But I feel like it's not constructed real tightly.
True, but
and I put some of that on less tightly than the first one, which is a low bar.
But think about this, though. I feel like this is something that we have to applaud in especially a superhero movie these days, is that you said this movie stands around 90 minutes. It's not overly long. And I think if you'd have dragged this thing out to 2 hours, it really would have been a slog. And I think the fun that you would have with the stupid fun stuff would go away a lot quicker if you added another 20, 30 minutes to this thing.
Well, I got to tell you also that that 90-minute runtime on this, the crowd that I watched this movie with, it did not hold their attention at all. Especially
really?
It takes so long to get to Carnage, the actual Carnage, that the all of the disenfranchised 15-year-olds that I saw this movie with were very, very bored by the old man playing Carnage and the love story, and like they didn't care about any of that stuff.
They could have fixed that problem with 2 words here: original wig. If they'd stuck with that original wig from the end of Venom, that would have kept everybody's attention.
I love how like first of all, like the teaser in the first Venom for Carnage with Cletus Kasady and that hair was absolutely hilarious. And it's almost as, I mean, they replaced it with a wig that I don't want to say is as bad, because it's not, but
not even close.
It's still not good.
It's better.
The front forward brush,
I was watching that because that was that scene where like he gets done with all this stuff, and like the natural thing for a character to do would be to rub your hand through your hair going backwards, front to back, and of course he goes back to front. I'm like, you son of a so-and-so. I tell you what.
I do love it, too, that he stole like a mid-level Russian mobster's suit to wear in the movie. Like, that is awesome.
These giant wide lapels that are all over the place. That collar, I love it so much. It's so bad. And, okay, well, we'll start to transition in by here. What is he doing? What is he and the lady who plays Shriek? It's Shriek, right? I said Shrek as a joke, but what are they doing?
Now, for Woody Harrelson, I get it. He's at a certain stage in his career.
He's a nutball. You can let him do it.
He's a clown, and he just shows up and he clowns, and that's fine. But I will say that, like, he did a better performance for Ron Howard than he did for Andy Serkis, because I liked his character a lot better in Solo. I felt like I knew something about that character. I really don't feel like I knew anything about Cletus here.
He just seems like a crazy person.
Honestly, if he would have, if Andy Serkis had said, you know what, just bring that natural born killer's energy, I think that would work great for Cletus. But he's just kind of a clown, and you know what, that's fine though. You expect a clown.
I'm pretty sure that those notes were taken to Woody at some point for this movie. The big question I have is, so Shriek gets shot by that cop
in the eye,
like,
and then she because she was in prison, and then they brought her to super secret prison so that the world would think she was dead. Why did they do that?
Yeah, why don't you just kill her?
Where do you want to start? He was trying to kill her. Now, she was on her way to the super secret prison when he shot her.
Right.
She was going to go to that prison whether she got shot or not.
But the question I'm asking is, why fake her death? Why call her dead if you're not going to, like, did the government want to try to use her as an agent or something? That's never brought up.
Well, here is something that I think the movie wasn't comfortable saying explicitly, but Shriek is a mutant.
Oh.
So she's the only mutant so far connected to the MCU, which is weird. Did you think that this movie is when the MCU would sort of introduce mutants?
Well,
you definitely didn't think it would be Shriek, did you?
That was certainly going to be my question, is like, you know, how because I'm not familiar with the character. I know she just basically has banshee powers, it seems, but
yeah, she's from 92, 93. So she's a mutant.
Because the name sounded familiar to me, so that makes sense now.
And she's Cletus's girlfriend in the Maximum Carnage storyline from 93.
Right.
So that's why she's here. But I don't know why they shot her in the eye, but they were taking her there because she is a mutant and she has this power, and they're trying to learn about mutants, trying to study the power.
Oh, I see.
So it's like the evil scientist from Ravencroft is actually from the comics, and that's just kind of what she does.
I see. So the thing that you have to know about this character is that one, she's a mutant, and two, that they're basically trying to figure out what makes mutants tick.
Yeah.
But none of that is explained in this movie.
I also don't understand how she survived getting shot in the eye.
There's that too.
There's that brain thing behind it that tends to catch a bullet.
And I guess maybe because she's a mutant, maybe she has a little healing factor. I don't know. I don't know why they shot her in the eye, other than to give them a reason for her to want to bring that cop into the final scene.
Well, and to have it kind of look cool because you got like the contrasting
eye. Looks so cool.
Yeah, that's probably because, you know, she kind of has a Domino type look in the comics a little bit with a scar around one eye or something. But anyway, I was waiting for Sean, you know, to tell me. I know you love it when these comic book movies have such a small world that the one cop who happened to be on prisoner transfer duty that night is also now the one that's hounding Eddie Brock.
Well, that was exactly my next nitpick.
San Francisco has what, 4 cops? I don't know.
Well, apparently, because everywhere you go in this movie, there's no one there. No matter where you are in bloody San Francisco, there is no one on the streets. There's no one in like, you know what? There were people in the rave club. There was a good 40 people in that rave club. And that is the only place where people populate. There is no one anywhere ever in this movie. And
the CGI budget took away from their extras budget.
Well, that's what and so here's the thing. Sony, let me do you a favor. Make sure you have the movie first before you just green light that next movie. Just get it together first. Get your, you know, whatever you need to do to get your ducats together to make a movie. Like, think about it. They're in San Francisco, and there is no one in this movie. It's so maddening to me.
In fact, I would think it would be more difficult to shoot scenes in San Francisco without people in the background than with them. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm almost impressed that they were able to clear out some of those streets.
But I mean, they, you know, clearly that is all B-roll, and they're shooting all the rest of it in Atlanta. I mean, that's just the way that movie works.
Oh, no, you mean to tell me it's too expensive to shoot a movie in San Francisco?
Here's some sky shots. You see it's San Francisco. There's the bridge. Enjoy yours. It's pretty much like The Room.
The Full House. There's the Full House. Okay, now back to Pinewood, Atlanta. Now, you said that the guy that plays the cop, like Mulligan, I think is the cop's name. You said he was in a Guy Ritchie movie?
Yeah, it was in Snatch.
Oh, yeah.
He was
He's one of Guy Ritchie's favorite.
Because, the only thing I could think is, how in the world do you settle with the second-rate Donnie Wahlberg?
First of all, I'm not going to front to you. When I first saw it, because like the first thought was Tommy. No, wait a minute, is that Wahlberg? Because like he looks like his character.
No, it's the dude from Band of Brothers.
Yeah, but
he looks so much like a second-rate Donnie Wahlberg, and first-rate Donnie Wahlberg doesn't look great.
He looked like, well, the thing is
like if you're going to get a knockoff Wahlberg, at least get a knockoff Marky Mark, right?
Maybe, but no. See, Donnie Wahlberg's not like he's a pretty good actor. I think he's very underrated.
Yes, he is. He's just, you know, you don't go for his look unless you got Donnie.
I suppose
it was weird.
But like I thought he was good, and I thought like you know, again, I love the facial hair changing from a couple of scenes to couple scenes. I thought that was, I'm just like, he's more bushy here. Oh, there he's back. He's good. We had to shoot that one later, apparently.
Oh man, they lost the napkin where they outlined the size of his goatee. You know, don't they do stuff like that?
And I thought for sure we had like a Chekhov's hearing aid coming into play at some point. I mean, obviously she made that happen. I was just like, oh, he's gonna like be able to take that off and save the day somehow, and that never came to fruition.
And in fact, I kind of thought, wow, what an odd choice. I mean, I respect him trying to be inclusive here, but that seems shoehorned in. And then it kind of made sense later that she was the reason he had the hearing damage.
Well, it would have been nice to actually not, because they telegraph it 8 miles away, because you see, like, they cut to an extreme close-up of his name tag so you know who he is and everything. And then we go to it. I'm like, wouldn't that have been a more interesting flair if, like, we didn't really know? I don't know. It seemed like they were just telegraphing it all out.
I would argue it's not that interesting either way. I mean, it's just standard comic book fare.
Well, plus 10 is better than plus 0, no?
I guess. But if you're starting from negative 1,000, it really
is not a negative 1,000. Come on now.
No, I'm just saying I don't think it's terribly more interesting. It's a comic book trope, and it would have played out as a trope whether you saw it telecast ahead of time or not, in my opinion. But speaking of comic book tropes, and some tropes just never die, second movie loses his powers for about
and he loses it like, what, 15 minutes into the movie? It's not long. And
so
all of a sudden,
bored kids in Sean's screening not only had to wait forever for Carnage, they had to wait to actually see Venom come back.
Man, I'm telling you, those kids were like, they were like, I want to be anywhere else but watching this movie.
Imagine if it took a hard right turn into like English patient territory where critics are crying in the theater and you have all these confused kids.
The subtle genius that is Cletus Cassidy.
You know, luckily for us, well, you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So, like, luckily for us, because I'm not going to lie to you, this movie was middling at best. Like, this movie is very, very weak sauce to me. I was bored. The children that I watched this movie with were all bored. And then when you hit that stinger.
Oh, the stinger.
Not only did everyone change on a dime from that stinger, people were literally screaming in the movie theater.
Wow. Yeah, well, now that I know the movie theater you went to, that makes nothing but sense.
Now, I got to tell you, I had a stinger before the stinger. And I don't know how many folks caught it, but like near the end when Carnage is dead and everything, did you catch where Mulligan's eyes glow blue?
Yes.
Now, what's the deal there? Because that felt like something we should know, but don't.
Mulligan is from the comics. And, you know, Carnage is Venom's son. Well, Carnage shoots off a little symbiote son that creates toxin, and Mulligan is toxin. So those eyes glowing blue let us know we're getting toxin in Venom 3, and Mulligan's going to be toxin.
Man,
and maybe they'll recast him with Donnie Wahlberg if I write enough letters.
Kids have been asking for toxin for how many years now?
I mean, that's what I thought was like. Did they learn nothing from years of superhero movies killing off the best villain? Like, you can't kill off Carnage because, well, let's be honest, Venom's rogues gallery doesn't go very deep. And also, Carnage is almost like a Thanos level threat. This could be what you do to get whatever stupid movie Sony's going to make. This is how you get Morbius and Venom and Black Cat and Silver Sable all together for the Spidey Avengers is to take on Carnage. Like you do a absolute Carnage storyline. So killing Carnage the way they did was a bad move.
Yeah,
you send Carnage into space, or you put him in a deep freeze. You send him into another dimension. You do something so he can come back.
Well, here's the thing: is that now that because of what just happened with Eddie, they can do whatever the hell they want. Yeah, everybody's back just like that.
Yeah, but I like it that they're building up Toxin, and maybe Toxin is the one that opens up some dimensional portal to bring Carnage back. But you know, you're not putting butts in seats to see. You're not putting butts in seats to see the maximum team up between Morbius and Venom to fight Toxin.
That's true.
Yeah, it felt like the end of Batman '89, where it's like, Wait a minute. This is like your main dude, and you're going to kill him off at the end of this thing?
It totally works in that movie, though. It totally works in that movie.
Man, it doesn't. I am not trying to make a tasteless joke, but I was so appreciative that Nolan didn't kill off the Joker.
Yes.
At the end of The Dark Knight, but then unfortunately, like real life did, because he understood the value of that character. Because imagine if we'd seen Ledger get to do that again at some point in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, it's just, but like that great with him in the cop car. It's just so very ambiguous and everything. It's really great. It's the kind of ending that you want for these villains, that you need to come back. And I mean, outside of just them, I guess saying like Woody's too expensive, maybe. I don't know what Woody is running on these days.
I mean,
you know?
is Woody that? I mean,
that's my point.
You gotta have more than one name in a superhero movie. Like Tom Hardy, I'm sure he can open it, but even Mad Max Fury Road had Charlize Theron in it. You got to pay more than one person. So I don't think you're going to get a marquee name significantly cheaper than Woody, are you?
Well, that's why you bring in Billy D. Williams or Mr. T. Like some huge name.
Carl Weathers,
some huge name.
Just bring Grief Karga into it. He
Richard Simmons, somebody everybody knows.
Butts in seats. It's the name of the game, people. And if you haven't been catching on this, come on. But
dude who played Matt Houston.
I do, since we're talking about some negative stuff too, before we dwell a little bit more on that mid-credit scene, I got to say one thing I did pick up on, and I hate to nitpick, but I found at least one tiny plot hole.
Just one? Okay, let's hear it.
In this movie. But for real, I never understood why Cletus Cassidy would refuse to speak to any reporter except Eddie Brock.
It's weird.
They don't mind giving us the small world, because Shriek got shot in the eye by Mulligan. So how about they just tell us that Eddie Brock wrote the story that led to Cassidy getting caught and locked up in the first place?
It's because it's lazy writing. I mean, that's all this is.
I needed some kind of explanation for why would Cassidy pick Eddie Brock out of everybody in the world, or maybe if the symbiote was calling out to Eddie Brock from Eddie Brock to Cletus, but I mean, it's just he just randomly picks the one reporter that if you also randomly decide to bite his hand, it turns you into Carnage.
Well, you're talking about a movie right now, Bruce, where the major theme of the movie is teamwork makes the dream work. That's literally what the people who make this movie are trying to tell you. They had to get that out.
And you know what? This movie was an absolute love story between Eddie and Venom. This was a romantic story between Eddie and Venom, and I love that aspect of it. It's they were crazy enough to go for it. Those beautiful people in Hollywood.
I'm glad that they did, because I like the idea that Venom kind of leaves and goes on his own adventure and everything. But I also found it interesting that he continues to have the same voice throughout that is Tom Hardy's voice, which I thought was, I'm like,
and
okay.
They kind of set it up. They kind of set it up in a way where it's not in the story, but when you're looking at the screen, it's like Eddie stands before his two choices for a life partner. His ex-girlfriend, Michelle Williams, was her name Anne or something?
Something like that.
Anne and Venom are right there, and he chooses Venom. That is his life partner moving forward. I mean, this is a love story where he had to let go of his hang-up for his ex-girlfriend to move on to the true love of his life.
They're literally on a beach together at the end of the movie.
Yes.
With the sunset and everything going on. I believe this is a start of a beautiful friendship. It's that kind of bullcrap.
This is the best love story I've seen since Midnight Cowboy, so it is great.
It's pretty good.
Bruce, that was there wasn't a lot of love going on in that movie.
Are you telling me that Ratso and John Voight weren't in love with each other?
I think Ratso was just in love with drugs. I think was.
I think that was a love story about those two men taking care of each other in the big city.
Well, sure. But go ahead.
That's what that movie's trying to say also. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes.
Just let this little guy fall asleep on your shoulder in the back of this bus and probably die. Thumbs up, everybody. Now, I'll tell you, all those movies in the 70s ended on a bus and sad, didn't they?
Yep. It sure feels that way.
Yeah.
That's why
the 70s was the director's decade.
Yeah, we just let them do it and all that kind of stuff.
Bus tickets were cheap. That was your trip to the Oscars.
But I thought the fight scenes were good. They're
okay. They're okay.
Not amazing, but good.
The CG of this movie takes me right the hell out. Also, there's a couple of fight scenes between Venom and Carnage where it's like watching Transformers again. Like they're too close up. I don't know where they are. I don't know who is who. It's terrible.
And not for nothing, I feel like the 185 film frame does a little bit to because you don't have enough real estate to work with on the left and right. You could separate these things out a little bit more and give us a little bit, but that's just me.
I also felt like they got to the part of the movie where they had to put together these fights. And they're like, oh, man, we never really did think of a way for Venom to put up a believable fight because they worked so hard at making Carnage this overpowered villain, but they didn't have like the McGillicuddy, the gimmick, they didn't have the way for Venom to win despite being outnumbered and outgunned. They did a great job of setting up that final battle comic book style, but they forgot to figure out how Venom would win. Like, that's how it felt to me once the fight got started.
Sean, don't you hate it when a movie doesn't have the McGillicuddy? God, I'd sit there, the credits roll, and you're just like, this didn't have McGillicuddy in it, and frankly,
look, he knows that the term is MacGuffin, but it's Bruce. So Bruce, trying to make someone angry, I don't know who you're trying to make angry at this point.
I think everybody.
He's just calling it a McGillicuddy because that's how he does.
The goober, if I'm going to quote Into the Spider-Verse. But, I saw something interesting. Did you notice anything at all about Tom Hardy's wardrobe in this movie, Sean, Adam?
Yeah, he's wearing Adidas throughout.
Well, not only that, but I read that Tom Hardy specifically chose a wardrobe to look like Axel Foley's from Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, get out of here. Really?
Yeah. The leather jacket, the pants, the shoes. It was like a little bit more a different color scheme on the leather jacket to be more like Venom's colors.
That's you know what? Now that makes sense. Cause I even asked myself watching this movie, why is Eddie Brock wearing a lion sweatshirt?
Yes.
He's from New York originally.
He was trying to dress like Axel Foley.
That's very cool, but it doesn't make any sense for Eddie Brock to be wearing a Detroit
Well, to Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock has the same first name as Eddie Murphy, is what I read with some of his reasoning.
You guys, listen, you're all going to eat your
Maybe
words.
He's just a big fan.
When the Blu-ray comes out in the deleted scene where Venom is stuffing bananas in tailpipes, you're gonna start laughing.
Hey, that's your next Carnage, Judge Reinhold. We were talking about who takes over for Woody Harrelson to get butts in seats.
There's a weird part of me that would like to see that.
Trying to stop a truck full of cigarettes.
Oh, I do a couple other quick little things. I liked the like Cletus's head coming out of Carnage and everything. I thought that was like a really cool look. That was like feels like that was pulled straight from comics, stuff like that. And the opening of the Venom face with Tom Hardy's face still in it and everything. Yes. I like that. I thought that stuff looks really cool. I felt like we could have used more kind of stuff like that felt more, because with that, like the Venom head, it feels like it's part of it's practical, at least.
You know what I was thinking when I was seeing some of that is like we could use a little John Carpenter, The Thing stuff going on here, like some of that kind of visual.
Don't you think that's probably the next one? I mean, it seems to be where they're going.
There is this creature from the comics that is a symbiote dragon, but doesn't really look like a dragon. It's called Grendel. And they're hinting that might be the big bad coming up in the future, which would be way more in that John Carpenter vein. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what else they'll kind of do with this. All right, let's get into so Spider-Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's talk about that in credit scene. Sorry, we were getting there and I derailed us.
No, it's fine. But just to see, I don't know why I didn't figure this would actually happen, but sure, shooting it did. We get J. Jonah Jameson on there, and he sees Spider-Man. So somehow, some way, have we already connected these worlds? Were they always connected to some point?
Well, here's the thing I'll say is they clearly moved across the multiverse here.
Yes,
because there's
no question about that, and it was suggested that maybe part of the Clintar power that Venom has is what made them transfer across, because he's sharing this knowledge with Eddie. Let's just call it consummating their marriage on their honeymoon here. And it takes them across the multiverse, which is a cool way to do it. And it sets us up. We all know it's going to be a multiversal story in the next Spider-Man movie. We know Doctor Strange, Quantumania for the next Ant-Man. We know it's all going multiversal. We've all seen Loki. We know what's coming. But the thing that caught me was when the first Venom movie came out, they were trying to insist that was happening in Tom Holland's Spider-Man's world. But here it's clear that it wasn't because they just jumped over into that world.
Oh, okay. So maybe this is me being a dum-dum because I guess I've literally just now figured out why they traveled to that hotel room by the beach. Like
it was the same hotel room, the same beach, different universe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't put that together, but that makes
and
a
that's
lot more
why
sense
that
now.
very, very attractive man in his boxer shorts was there.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Why are you here right now? It's weird. All right, before we do our final rating here and everything, we have to. I'm sorry.
One more quick word,
please.
37 million opening. 37 million on opening night, not opening weekend.
Yeah, it made 90 and I think over 100 worldwide, like first night.
Because I know we had some text messages about if this movie was flopping or not, and it definitely isn't. And they were still toying with the date up until Shang-Chi came out. They were still thinking about pushing it back, and then Shang-Chi did well, so they left it. They actually moved it forward 2 weeks after Shang-Chi's weekend.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, the reason why I asked that question was because before I walked into the movie theater, there was literally like 10 seats reserved. But by the time that the movie started, the place was pretty packed.
Yeah, we did a lot. We did a lot of business for Venom and stuff. So, and what I'm so glad is that it's 90 minutes long. Get people in, get people out. Makes my job so much more
that
simple.
also helps that opening weekend if you get an extra screening in it.
Yeah,
on
you
that first night.
literally could easily. I mean, compared to most superhero movies, you could get 1 or 2 more screenings in there on account of it. So.
You can watch this twice for every time you watch Endgame.
Oh boy, oh
Not
boy.
that you'd want to,
But you could if one was so inclined. And if one was so inclined, they would have to ask themselves how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Hello, Mr. Stallone. It's Sweet Shawnsy again. Today, I'd like to talk to you about drone pilot Stephen Blizzard. Finding a talented drone pilot for your movie or Netflix special about a series of true crime murders can be difficult. I'm going to tell you a story I've heard. I'm going to keep the names of people and places out on purpose. Also, keep in mind that this is a secondhand account, so I don't know how true this story is because it's also impossible to fact check, although I have heard it varying times. So please keep all of this in mind, Mr. Stallone, before I get into it. Here we go. A few years ago, a drone pilot was working on a movie explicitly because he told the production he had exceptional drone piloting skills. Production hires him, rents a drone camera, lets him loose. This guy needs to weave through a skyline roughly 30 stories up to give the impression that a character is flying around the city, narrowly averting buildings and the like. Things are going fine until he banks too hard, smashes the camera into the side of a skyscraper, where it then falls 30 stories out of the sky into the ground. Got some footage, but not nearly what they needed, and they would have to try again. Drone pilot is shaken, but like pilots and camera guys everywhere, he thinks he's the world's greatest human, and he's ready to go again. Production tells this drone pilot, look, we know we're asking you to do some pretty tricky camera work, so this time, let's go easier. We don't want to destroy another $60,000 camera. So the guy flies another drone up into the skyline, and immediately a huge gust of wind blows the drone into the side of a different skyscraper where it is instantly destroyed. And this is my favorite part of the story as it was first told to me. The drone pilot was fired before all of the second drone's bits hit the ground. So you see, Mr. Stallone, you need to have a good drone pilot, and that's why when you see that Stephen Blizzard is available, you hire him. And that's just what the good people over at Venom, Let There Be Carnage decided. There's so much drone work in this movie that Stephen Blizzard might as well be credited as B camera operator. He does such a good job on a pretty not so great movie. But the folks at Venom, Let There Be Carnage already knew he was an ace drone pilot. All they had to do was look at his resume. He's got Baby Driver, Black Panther, Hobbs and Shaw, Bad Boys for Life, not to mention the fact that they had already worked with him on the first Venom movie. But the reason why I've been talking about Stephen Blizzard and his biggest calling card to date is the fact that he worked on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which also happened to star you, Sylvester Stallone. But weirdly, Stephen Blizzard wasn't the drone pilot, but co-writer of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Wow, that's
What
range.
now?
No, he was the drone pilot.
I was about to
wanna
say, I'm
see
like,
if you
I
guys
don't
are still
think
paying
so.
attention.
Oh my God, that sounds a little far-fetched to me, but
But at the same time, I've heard weirder things.
right?
And there you have it. Your Stallone connection this week is a guy who hasn't crashed 2 drones in the same day. His name is Steven Blizzard. I hope to hear from you soon. Your internet pal, Sweet Shawnsy, from the internet.
Well, I hope Mr. Blizzard will still have a little bit of work because James Gunn got super excited over it. Did you guys see this drone footage that was done in this bowling alley? Probably earlier
I've
this
seen
year.
that.
Yes.
Yeah. So James Gunn was just like, this is amazing. Whoever this is, you need to come work with me on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I'm like, ooh, all right, good for you, buddy boy.
Blizzard's seething in rage right now.
Blizzard's just like, you shy. I do
Bowling
not
alley.
want
I
to
can do a bowling alley.
Not for nothing, though. It is an amazingly good
It is
shot.
incredible. It is so. It is the best drone pilot I've ever seen.
It's one of those that you will look at and you'll just swear up and down is CGI, and it is not. It is all real.
Yeah.
It is all one take, and it's spectacular. Check that out.
And I'll tell you, I've worked with some pretty good drone pilots. Like they can basically do some really like. It's kind of impressive with the guys who are like that's their only job that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I don't know anybody who could do what that guy did in a bowling alley. I just don't.
Unreal.
I've flown a drone before, and I was not good at it at all.
Yeah, I feel you. I was like, those tiny little DJI things, I've done some of those, and it's like, oh, well, I couldn't do this more than, 4 feet a second, how these guys do. It's unreal. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast, everybody. We'll talk about what we're doing in just a moment. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
People are lucky if they have access to YouTube because they can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie, the best anime talk going today. Right now, I'm working my way through Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Attack on Titan. And if I dare say myself, it's different than other people's. So go check it out.
Yeah. It's not the same as theirs. TM.
No, it's very distinct. It's like Venom 2. You'll either love it or you'll hate it, but you'll remember you watched.
But you'll remember it. Oh my gosh, we didn't even do our Robin rating. What's wrong with me? I'm over here.
Damian Wayne.
I'm over here teasing the next show.
Damian Wayne, man.
Damian Wayne for me too.
Yeah, this movie is why Damian Wayne is rated.
I can't believe
Yes.
I missed it. For me, it's it was a Tim Drake. So just a low Tim Drake, but I had enough fun. It's like I knew what type of movie it was going to be based upon the first one. This is a bit more of that, and you've
been way more forgiving of movies lately.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it felt like it just had just enough of it. The humor was just dumb and silly enough for me to enjoy it.
He's been getting private screenings. I think that influences
it. Does.
That does help.
Hey,
it does help.
It certainly don't hurt. I tell you that. Sean, what about you on the internet? Where else? What other things might we have?
We got a show called 30 Questions. Just go to your podcatcher and put in 30Q, and you'll see all of our other shows. They're right there. And if you got a show you like some nerdy property, type that in and go 30Q. It's probably there.
Yeah, there's a darn good chance that it could be. For me, if you would, if you were in the Charlotte area, I am going to be hosting horror trivia every Tuesday at the Cinnabar lobby and everything. Come on down, win some. I don't want to say fabulous prizes, but they're prizes that that corporate has allowed us to give.
They meet the legal definition of a prize.
Yeah, exactly. It's not nothing, but it's certainly not. I'm not giving away Cadillacs, so don't think about that. But
then I'm definitely not showing up. No Cadillacs.
But I am giving out good old fashioned fun times, and of course we have our horror retro series and everything. Thank you to the people that came out for the first night that we had. We enjoyed it, and we'll be doing more of those as time goes on. So check that out if you're in the Charlotte area. Head on down by Cinnabar and come say hi, everybody. That'll do it for this episode. Join us next week when we're talking the first 2 episodes of Why the Last Man and the podcast that never was. For Sweet Sean Zakovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Did you hear about the midnight rambler? Everybody got to go. Did you hear about the midnight rambler? You want to search the kitchen door. Don't give you a hoot, I don't want it. Wrapped up in a black cat cloak. It don't go in the light of the morning. It's split the time the cock will crow. gambler, the one you never seen before. Yeah, I'm talking about the midnight gambler. Did you see him jump the garden wall? The sign down the whistle sang. Listen and you hear him moan. Yeah, well, I'm talking about the midnight gambler. Everybody got to go. Did you hear about the midnight rambler? Well, honey, that's no rock and roll show. Well, I'm talking about the midnight gambler. Yeah, the one you never seen before. Well, you heard about the Boston. It's not one of those. Well, I'm talking about the midnight. The one that closed the bedroom door. I'm called the hit and run reaper in anger. The knife sharpened tip-toe. Oh, just a shooting dead. Brain bell jangling. You know, the one you never seen before. So if you ever meet the midnight rambler, riding down your marble hall, well, he's bouncing like a proud Black Panther. Well, you can say I told you so. coming down your hall. Did you hear